This is the multi-voice text-to-speech podfic reading of You're a Pretty Little Flower by Bark at the Moon, composed by Burning Aurora, Kaliana, and Flowerhawk. You're a pretty little flower. I'm a busy little bee. When Remus wakes up, he spends a few minutes laying in bed, curled around his cat, while the late morning sunrise creeps across the room, thinking about everything he wants to do with his day off. He just started a new job a couple of weeks ago, and so far it's been unbelievably hectic. Between his working hours and his long commute, he's barely had the time to do anything for himself. So exhausted by the time he finally makes it home that he simply collapses onto the sofa and stares at the telly until it's officially time to go to bed. So he has quite a few things he either wants or needs to do today. He wants to take a nice soak in the tub at some point. That one's a given. But he did remember to pick up a bag of Epsom salts when he did the shopping on his way home yesterday. So hopefully that will help with that ache in his back that doesn't seem to want to go away. He wants to finish his library book that's due in just a couple of days. He wants to give his cat some extra cuddles to make up for his absence. He's been neglecting to eat proper meals lately as well, so maybe he'll make himself a nice fry-up for breakfast. His house is a tip. He's completely out of clean silverware, and the laundry situation is getting absolutely dire, hence why he's had to wear swim trunks in lieu of pants beneath his trousers 2 days in a row. He would really like, at some point, to have a nice leisurely wank. Well, he thinks, giving the cat a scratch behind her ears as she lets out a little beeping meow and stretches, claws extending as she shows off her little toe beans. Perhaps he can combine a few of those things to really get the most out of his day. Reading in the tub sounds like a lovely way to spend his afternoon. He sits up with a groan as his joints crackle and pop like he's an elderly man, despite the fact that he's not even 30 yet, lifting his legs over the cat and swinging them off the side of the bed. He takes a moment to simply scratch at his itchy chest hair as he stares off into space before he stands, shrugging on his dressing gown with a yawn, before wandering into the bathroom to relieve himself. His stomach keeps rumbling as he cleans his teeth and washes his face, and as he drags a wet comb through his hair to try to fix his curls, he decides that dishes and then breakfast should probably come first. He fills the cat's bowl with kibble before he gets started, Mabel trotting into the room only to turn her nose up at the food, perching on the edge of the counter to glare at him as he rolls up the sleeves of his dressing gown and gets started, her fluffy tail flicking back and forth angrily.
I know that you like the other stuff better,
he tells her, trying to scrub some sort of dried sauce off one of his plates.
but they raised the prices on it again. Plus, this one is supposed to be better for you, I think. There was a long section on the back about how it's healthier, or something.
Mabel, predictably, is not happy with this answer, pinning her ears back before she reaches out and slaps a bowl into the sink, skittering away as it splashes soapy water all over his dressing gown. After the dishes are done and he's had a hearty breakfast, he decides to get started on the laundry, tossing his soaked gown towards the pile of dirty clothes that have escaped the basket, sorting through his remaining clothing options with a grimace. The few things in his wardrobe are clothes that he never wears, but he'd really like to get the rest of his laundry washed, and it's not like anyone is around to see his shame. So it's with a sigh that he dresses in a pair of embarrassingly short shorts and a ridiculous t-shirt that his ma'am gave him. It's as he's looking for a clean pair of socks that he finds the plug. It was something that an ex had bought him ages ago. The man was an utter arse, and they hadn't lasted very long at all, and Remus had promptly tossed it into the bottom of his wardrobe where he wouldn't have to look at it anymore. He sits back on his heels as he reads over the packaging, the words remote-controlled and 10 powerful vibrating modes catching his attention, staring at the wide flare of the silicone plug before he decides that it may make doing his chores a little more fun. He has to find his scissors to get it out of the clamshell packaging, which were beneath the sofa for some godforsaken reason, giving it a good wash and checking the charge, startling when it buzzes to life in his hand. He shoos the cat from the room before he closes the door, strips out of his pajamas, and lays back on his bed as he grabs the lube from his bedside table. It's been quite a while since he had a bed partner, so he decides that he should probably open himself up a little before he tries to work it into himself, hitching one leg up against his chest as he squirts lube onto his fingers, a shuddering sigh escaping his throat as he reaches down to touch himself. He takes his time with it, rubbing against the outside of his hole and relaxing the muscle before he presses the tip of one finger inside. And by the time he has 3 fingers twisting in and out of his arse, he realizes that he's completely forgotten what he was doing and is simply fingering himself for the fun of it. He pulls his fingers free and wipes them on the sheets. Those are getting washed too, and slicks up the plug before he starts working it into himself. He hisses a little at the stretch. The widest part of the bulb is considerably wider than his fingers were, shallowly thrusting it into himself until the resistance finally gives and it slides all the way into him, moaning as it brushes against his prostate and the flared base settles against his rim. He lays there for a moment, sweaty and aroused, trying to calm himself a little, before he reaches for the remote and presses the on button. He jolts as it buzzes to life, a strangled moan catching in his throat as his eyes roll back from the stimulation, squirming around before he decides to test out all the different settings. The strongest one has him crying out, back arching up off the bed as his limbs jerk, and he quickly turns it off again, collapsing back against the mattress as he tries to catch his breath. He should probably wait to turn the vibration on until his erection has faded, otherwise this will be over before he can even get started. He winces as he sits up, the plug shifting inside of him and pressing against his prostate, which makes him whine, his legs shaking as he picks up his clothes and quickly slips them on. He tucks the remote into the pocket of his shorts before he gathers up as much laundry as he can manage and shakily makes his way into the kitchen. He shoves as many clothes as can fit into the drum, which his landlady won't be very happy about if she finds out, getting it started before he braces his hands against the worktop and pants for breath. He's never done anything like this before and didn't realize quite how hard it would make everything. His shorts are tented out obscenely in the front, legs quivering, and as he drags himself over to the cupboard where he keeps his cleaning supplies, he realizes that it's actually rather fun. He feels naughty as he gives the worktop a good scrub, his arousal rising and cresting like a wave as each step shifts the plug around, and he decides that he might try this more often. It's definitely making cleaning more enjoyable than it ever has been before. He putters around the rest of his house, cleaning the bathroom and dusting off his shelves before he hoovers, stripping the bed and putting on nice clean sheets as his legs shake. And by the time his first load of laundry is done, he's very grateful for the chance to sit down for a little while. He starts a new load and dumps the clean clothes on the coffee table before he collapses onto the sofa, wiping sweat off his brow as Mabel jumps onto the warm pile, purring loudly as she settles down in it. As Remus calms down, he realizes that there isn't much stimulation like this, his hips shifting around restlessly, and he decides to give the vibration a try again. He fishes the remote from his pocket and squints at it before he turns it on to the lowest setting, a gentle pulsing that has him moaning and shuddering, his face flushing hot when he realizes that he can hear it vibrating inside of him. He thinks about turning it off again, but he lives alone other than the cat, and it does feel rather nice. So he decides to leave it on, setting the remote to the side as he picks up a towel with trembling hands and starts to fold it. Doing the folding seems to take considerably longer than usual, though it is rather enjoyable, Mabel hissing in offense as he chips away at the pile she's lying on, and by the time he finishes folding his last jumper, he's feeling rather accomplished, as well as being so turned on that he can barely think, adding it to the tidy stack of folded clothing on the table.
There, that wasn't so bad,
he says to his cat as he brushes his hands together, rolling his eyes when she gives him an unimpressed look and flops over onto her back, looking around his much cleaner living room with a little grin.
Now it's just time to put these away and...
He trails off when he realizes that the buzzing has gotten louder, much louder. He looks down at his lap, pressing a hand against his lower stomach and double-checking the remote to make sure that he hasn't turned up the setting before he looks around, dread dripping down his spine as he freezes completely, the plug vibrating relentlessly against his prostate, which doesn't feel quite as nice as it did just a moment ago. Hovering in the air above him is a fat, pollen-dusted bumblebee. He feels like the protagonist in a horror movie as he stares at it, facing down the monster that hasn't quite seen him yet, panic fully setting in when movement from the corner of his eye catches his attention and he notices that there are more of them, scuttling in through the window that he decided to crack open before taking flight around his living room. He realizes with a sinking feeling that they're attracted to the candle that he lit, the sweet floral scent drawing them in, and he really doesn't know what to do in this situation. The thing is that he's horribly allergic to bees. He nervously glances away from them, over to where his work bag is hanging by the door, knowing that his EpiPen is safely tucked inside the front pocket. Perhaps he can extinguish the candle and then try to shoo the bees out the back door. Logically, he knows that bees are generally rather docile, despite how terrified of them he is, and he's just reaching for a towel when one of them lands on his wrist.
Shit.
He whispers, staring at it with wide, watering eyes, unable to draw in a breath as it crawls around on the back of his hand until it eventually takes flight again, and he gasps for air as he presses his hand over his racing heart.
Shit.
Remus gives in to the terror that's coursing through his system and leaps off the sofa, grabbing his phone with one hand and the cat with the other, snagging his EpiPen on the way out the door and slamming it closed behind him, panting as he stands on the little slab of pavement outside of his door. After a moment, he swallows and looks down at himself, realizing that he still has a raging erection despite his fear, and that he left the remote inside with all the bees.
Fuck.
He sighs, glancing from the cat to his phone before he looks out towards the lane, grateful that the shrubs that line his front garden should keep him out of view of his neighbors, especially since there's absolutely no hiding the state that he's in.
Now what?
Remus can't help but to whine in embarrassment when he sees the bright red fire engine come around the bend, lights off and sirens silent, thankfully, squirming in discomfort from his perch on the side of the raised flower bed. He'd finally given in and called the non-emergency number when he realized that he couldn't reasonably call his parents and ask them to come to his rescue, and certainly not with the situation happening within his trousers, explaining everything but the plug inside of him to the amused dispatcher who had promised to send help, although he hadn't expected the bloody fire brigade. He watches morosely as it pulls up along the curb, his face burning from sheer mortification as he glances down at himself with another quiet whine. All of his laundry was right there within reach. It would have been so easy to reach out and snag a pair of joggers in his blind panic, but he didn't. So now he's forced to greet the nice people who have come to save his allergic arse in what might be the world's tiniest pair of shorts that have a rather suspicious wet patch on the front from where his cock has been steadily leaking, mismatched socks that are bunched down around his ankles, and an oversized hot pink t-shirt that says lactose intolerant over a picture of a cow. The plug is, of course, still audibly vibrating. He'd tried to make a quick dash inside to get the remote and was instantly thwarted by a swarm of bees, though he did manage to blow the candle out before it could possibly burn his house down or attract even more of them, and he'd strongly considered pulling the plug out and hiding the cursed thing beneath a bush. The second his hands had gone to his waistband, though, he'd realized that the nosy woman next door was staring at him through the window, at which point he'd abandoned the idea completely. The last thing he needs is a public indecency charge for getting caught with his pants down and a bejeweled plug sticking out of his arse. He sighs and tugs the hem of his shirt down over his lap, giving Mabel a pat on the back where she's loafing next to him on the flower bed, listening to the sound of doors slamming and two deep voices chatting, raising a hand in greeting as two firemen in their thick fire gear start up his path. They glance up at him and wave back, and he sucks in a breath at the sight of the one on the left, unconsciously clenching down around the plug and jolting from the increased stimulation. He's the most gorgeous man he's ever seen. Remus has the worst fucking luck known to man.
Hello.
He calls, wincing when his voice comes out high and breathy, clearing his throat before he attempts to speak again.
Thank you so much for coming out to help me. I really can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
The fireman with messy hair and glasses says, setting down a bag before he approaches with his hand outstretched, and Remus panics about the sound of the plug for a moment before he starts humming beneath his breath to cover it.
I'm James, and this is serious. We heard you're having a little problem with some bees.
Ah, Remus, nice to meet you. And yes, there's a whole swarm of them in my living room.
He says, quickly shaking his hand, fully aware of just how badly he's trembling and how sweaty his palm is when he tentatively takes Sirius's outstretched hand, gaping for a moment at just how beautiful he is.
I hate to be a bother, but I'm terribly allergic, and I was scared that I would get stung if I tried to shoo them out the door myself.
Sirius peers down at him, head tipping to the side and lips pulling up into a smirk, at which point Remus realizes that he's still shaking his hand, promptly dropping it as he resumes his panicked humming.
It's not a worry, mate. That's what we're here for. You sit tight. We're going to go in and have a look around, and we'll let you know once we come up with a game plan.
Okay.
He says, digging his teeth into his lower lip as he nods, a thought occurring to him when they turn towards the door.
Oh, wait. There's a little white remote on the coffee table. Could you please bring that out to me? It's very important. It's for the cat.
Sirius raises one perfectly shaped eyebrow, alluring silver eyes dropping down to where Mabel is snoozing before he grins and nods.
Sure, I'll keep my eyes peeled for it.
The two of them slip through the front door with his blessing, and Remus tries to take some deep, calming breaths to soothe the way he's thrumming with arousal, his newfound calm vanishing in the wind the moment he remembers he was doing laundry, and that there's an entire stack of his pants sitting atop the coffee table. Fucking hell, he's pretty sure the ones that Pete gave him for his birthday that say, "Tickle my pickle," were right on top. He really hopes that they don't notice them. He waits patiently, squirming and panting for breath, calling Mabel back to him when she jumps down in pursuit of a butterfly, and assuring the man across the street that everything is fine when he pops his head over the hedge to inquire about the fire engine parked on the street. At a certain point, Remus realizes that he can't stop squirming, working the plug inside of him as his pleasure keeps ramping up, and he's starting to get very worried that he's about to make a mess of the inside of his shorts. Which is when, of course, Sirius steps outside.
All right, so,
He says, muscled arms bulging as he crosses them over his chest, his suspenders for his fire-resistant trousers dangling around his hips, and Remus despairs when he notices the little white remote clutched in his fist.
we've closed the window, and James is working on catching them all and releasing them back outside where they belong.
Great.
He says, the word coming out strangled, past the point where he's able to think of a way to politely ask for the remote that will end his torture.
It might take a little while, though. He's just one man, and there's a lot of those little buggers. We think they were attracted to the candle on your mantel, so you may want to avoid burning that one when you have the windows open.
Sirius, to his horror, leans against the wall and starts tossing the remote between his hands.
What's that song you're humming? It sounds familiar.
It's Blondie, hanging.
Remus has to bite down on his lower lip to keep his moan inside, the desire to move nearly unbearable, unable to stop himself from clenching down around the plug as his thighs tense.
Hanging on.
Hanging on the telephone.
Sirius says slowly, an odd expression creeping over his face, at which point Remus realizes that he has stopped humming. The buzzing is clear as day. Sirius blinks twice and then gives him an easy grin, slouching down a little as he starts tossing the remote up into the air and catching it.
So, Remus, were your parents a big fan of the classics then? Do you have a twin brother running around somewhere?
He's pretty sure that he's having a nightmare, an actual honest-to-God nightmare, and at any point he's going to wake up in his bed with sticky sheets and a sense of shame that won't come out in the wash.
My dad.
He answers, sweat dripping down his face, hands curled around the edge of the flower box so tightly that his knuckles are aching.
He's, a professor of Roman mythology. But no brother, I'm an only child.
Huh.
Sirius says, nodding a few times.
And do you live here alone?
Just me and the cat.
Remus grits out, starting to lean forward until he realizes that that's a terrible idea, letting out a little yelp as the plug shifts.
Fuck. Sorry, I am Splinter.
Nasty business, those.
Sirius says, looking very amused as he peers down at him, his tongue dragging along his lower lip.
This is rather inappropriate of me to ask, but do you have a partner? Anyone who could come over to help you out?
No. I was going to call my parents about the bees, but they live in Wales, and it would have been a really long time before they could get here, hence why I called the non-emergency line.
Oh yes. I can't imagine that your parents would have been very much help in this situation.
Sirius says, his face softening when Remus's eyes flash up from where they've been ogling his chest, giving him a soft smile when he just looks at him in confusion, holding up the hand with the remote.
How long have you had that plug inside of you?
All morning.
He whines, letting the humiliation wash over him fully as he starts squirming again, so far past the point of being able to care about things like propriety or the fact that he's about to come untouched in front of the most beautiful man he's ever seen.
I turned it on when I started doing my laundry, and then when I was running from the bees, I forgot to grab the remote, and it's been vibrating this entire time. I need to come so badly.
Remus's face crumples as the stress of the day crashes, and his unrelenting desire crashes down over him, tears stinging at the corners of his eyes before they spill over, a sob catching in his throat.
I'm sorry, it's starting to hurt, and
Hey, easy, it's all right.
Sirius says quietly, crossing over to crouch down in front of him, setting the remote next to his knee before he reaches up and cups Remus's face in his hands, wiping away his tears as he sobs again.
It's okay, sweetheart. I can't even imagine how long you've been holding on. It's okay. You can let go. I'll keep your busybody neighbors from seeing.
I can't.
He whimpers, hips shifting back and forth.
I've been on the edge of coming since before I called, and I still haven't come. I was going to take it out, but there's people, and I just don't know what to do. I don't even think turning it off would help at this point.
Sirius looks at him for a long moment, jaw working as he chews on the inside of his cheek, glancing over his shoulder and at the front door before he swallows and drops one hand to Remus's thigh, giving it a little squeeze.
Can I touch you? I'll help you get off, love, and then we'll turn it off and get the plug out of you. All right? I can't imagine it will take very long with how worked up you are, but only if you're comfortable with it.
Remus gapes at him for a moment, wondering why this Adonis of a man is being so kind to him, before he willingly allows himself to hit a new low in life as he cries out,
Please.
Sirius smiles at him and uses the hand still on his face to guide Remus's head down to his shoulder, before his hand slides up his thigh and wraps around his length through the soaked material of the shorts. Remus immediately cries out, pressing his mouth against Sirius's shirt to muffle the noise as his hips thrust into the pressure of his hand, Sirius making a low noise in the back of his throat.
That's it.
He murmurs, stroking him slowly, his hand sliding up to cradle the back of Remus's head as he whimpers and whines.
There you go, beautiful. Just let yourself feel good.
Fuck.
Remus gasps, the white-hot heat that's been building at the base of his spine turning into an inferno.
I'm going to.
You can let go.
Sirius tells him, his hand dragging against the material, squeezing at his head in a way that has him seeing stars.
Come for me, Remus.
His orgasm rips through him, letting out a breathless shriek against Sirius's shoulder as his vision whites out completely, his whole body twitching as he comes and makes even more of a mess on the inside of his shorts. Sirius murmurs praise in his ear as he works him through it, reaching down to snag the remote and turning off the plug as his hand slows to a stop still wrapped around his cock.
There.
Sirius says softly, combing his fingers through Remus's hair as he practically melts against his chest, panting for breath and feeling like his bones have turned to jelly.
Do you feel better now, sweetheart?
Mm-hmm.
He murmurs, nodding a few times before he shifts and winces.
I'm really sore.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Sirius says mildly, guiding his head up and looking at him, eyes flicking between his before he gives him a little smile.
Do you want me to take the plug out for you?
He shifts around, shame curling in his stomach as he blushes, shifting again and wincing.
If you wouldn't mind.
Not at all.
Sirius gives him a grin, stroking his thumb along his cheekbone before his smile fades slightly, expression sobering.
Look, I should probably let you know that I'm ridiculously attracted to you before this goes any further. I nearly tripped coming up the walkway when I got a look at you. James teased me about it the whole time we were inside, and I left him to the bees so that I could come out here and flirt with you. I'd really like to ask you out if this whole thing hasn't, turned you off, so to speak.
Remus blinks a few times, stunned beyond words, hurrying to speak when something like hurt flashes in Sirius's eyes.
Yes. Yes. I know you didn't technically ask me out, but the answer is yes. You're so fucking attractive. Are you kidding me? Oh my God, I just came in front of you. Fucking hell. And my outfit. Are you sure you want to ask me out?
Sirius laughs, stroking along his cheek again, ducking in to press a feather-like kiss beneath his eye.
I'm very sure. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell people that I helped you get off and then asked you on a date. I'm pretty sure I could get fired for this, but I really want to take you out. Right after I get that plug out of you, of course. Do you think you can stand up?
I'm not sure.
Remus braces his hands on Sirius's shoulders and tries to rise, his shaking thighs giving out on him immediately as he falls back to the flower bed with a pained yelp.
No, I cannot.
All right, that's fine.
Sirius says, glancing over his shoulder before his hands land on Remus's hips with a little squeeze.
Here, kneel down and turn around for me, sweetheart.
He can barely manage it, even with Sirius helping him, the rough grit of the pavement digging into his knees as he leans against the flower bed, his face flushing hot as he listens to the sound of Sirius pulling on rubber gloves before his shorts are being tugged down beneath his arse. He whines in mortification as Sirius shushes him, fingers slipping between his cheeks and hooking around the base of the plug, rubbing a soothing hand over his shoulder as he starts working out of him. He hears Sirius curse behind him, voice low and gritty, but Remus can barely pay him any attention as he whines from the stretch of the plug, one rubber-clad thumb rubbing against his rim in an effort to get him to relax as it's slowly pulled out of him. When it finally slides free, he lets out a little cry of relief, slumping down against the flower bed with a choked sob.
There you go.
Sirius says, just a hint of a groan seeping into his words. And when Remus glances over his shoulder, he's staring down between his legs with a hungry expression. Sirius snaps out of it quickly when he realizes that he's looking at him, giving him a smile as he tugs his shorts up again, and to his absolute horror, tucks the plug into one of the large pockets of his outer trousers. Then again, Remus isn't sure what else he would have done with it until he's allowed entry to his house again, other than chucking the blasted thing into the fucking bin. So he's at least able to acknowledge that it was thoughtful of him beneath the crushing waves of embarrassment that are crashing over him as he's lifted and sat on the edge of the flower bed again.
Thank you.
He says quietly, wrapping his arms around his waist as he looks off to where Mabel has absconded across the garden, rolling around in a patch of grass. Sirius huffs and puts a finger beneath his chin, those silver eyes flicking between his as he smiles softly at him.
Is it corny if I say that it was my pleasure?
Remus can't quite help the way he laughs, or the way he leans into the pressure of Sirius's hand when it slides up to cup his cheek, gnawing on his lower lip before he shakes his head.
No, not corny at all.
They both look up as the door swings open, James stepping out with a beatific grin that sharpens when he spots the way Sirius is touching his face, waggling his brows and nudging his coworker with his elbow, as Remus quickly tugs his shirt down over the wet spot on his lap.
Hello, lads. What have we been getting up to out here while I was chasing bees about Mr. Lupin's lovely abode?
Just chatting.
Sirius says as one brow quirks up, something unspoken passing between the two of them before James sighs and rolls his eyes.
Why don't you head out to the engine while I escort Remus into the house and do a final walk through? Just to check for more bees, you know.
Oh, of course.
James huffs, clapping him on the back before he glances down to where Remus is sitting and gives him a grin.
Remus, it was lovely to meet you, and I'll assume that I'll see you around at some point. Yeah.
Probably.
He stammers, giving James a little wave as he laughs and saunters off towards where the truck is parked at the curb.
I need to get my cat back inside.
I'll grab her just a moment.
Sirius hurries across the yard and gives Mabel a little scratch before he scoops her up, carrying her up to the house and depositing her inside before he turns to him with his hands extended.
Need a hand?
I might even need two of them.
Remus grumbles, taking his hands and letting him pull him up, his knees buckling until Sirius wraps an arm around his waist and half carries him over the threshold.
Words cannot explain how embarrassed I am about all of this.
Remus, I promise you, there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Sirius assures him, helping him down the hall into the sofa, lowering him down onto it.
Frankly, I'm completely thrilled with the turn my day has taken. I got to meet a cute bloke, helped him get off, which was absolutely amazing. And then I even scored a date out of the entire thing. I'm totally going to buy a scratch card on the way back to the station. Lift your hips.
Remus stares at Sirius as he crouches down in front of him, a pair of his clean pants in hand, searching his expression for any sign that he isn't being earnest, that all of this might be some sort of cruel joke. When he doesn't find one, Remus lifts his hips, allowing him to peel his sticky shorts down his thighs, Sirius's eyes dropping for a brief second to his soft cock with a little shiver before he helps him into the pants, letting the waistband snap softly against his hips.
You really want to go out on a date with me?
I really, really do.
Sirius answers somberly, hands sliding up to his waist to give him a little squeeze.
Well,
He says carefully, mustering up his courage, gnawing on his lower lip before he decides to just go for it.
I'm free tonight.
I am as well.
Sirius's eyes light up as he grins, hands tightening around him before he lets go and rises, tucking his hands into the pockets of his trousers.
I would offer to take you out somewhere, but you've already had quite the day. So what if I brought over takeaway and we can get to know each other better?
I'd really like that.
All right.
Sirius says, looking bashful for a moment before he pulls something from his pocket and picks up one of his pens to scribble on it, holding it out towards him until he takes it.
That's my cell phone number, just in case. Do you have any other allergies besides bees? Well, and dairy products. I suppose I should avoid those.
No, just bees and a mild intolerance to lactose.
Remus answers, smiling as Sirius backs towards the door and nearly trips over the laundry basket, laughing quietly as he catches himself on the wall.
I'll see you tonight.
I'll be here at 6 on the dot.
Sirius says, looking very reluctant to leave, shifting his weight from foot to foot before he asks.
Can I kiss you?
Yes, please.
He crosses the room in 3 quick strides and takes Remus's face between his hands, bending over him to press their mouths together in a brief, chaste kiss that has his stomach flipping with butterflies. Sirius makes a soft noise against his mouth and kisses him again before pulling away, smiling down at him before he straightens and starts heading towards the door again.
I'll see you tonight.
Sirius says, giving him a little wave that Remus returns before he turns and disappears down the hall, the front door opening and closing a moment later. Remus just sits there for a few moments, lips still tingling from the kiss as his body sags with exhaustion, thinking that he should probably shower and take a nap since he now has a date tonight, when a thought suddenly occurs to him. The plug is still in Sirius's pocket. Finite. Thanks for listening to this text-to-speech podfic composed by Burning Aurora, Kaliana, and Flowerhawk.